That's it. We're live. Welcome back to Steps 10 and 11, the Avenues Alumni 8-week STEP workshop. We have a very special guest tonight from Philadelphia, Christina McDonald. She's a domestic violence advocate and a woman specializes in women's trauma and resources in recovery. We're going to come back in 30 seconds. We'll give you guys a chance to settle in and share this with your friends. We'll be doing steps 10 and 11. See you in 30. Well, hello, everyone. That was quick. We're back from the void, the snowflake void of a 30-second countdown. This gives me a chance to make some announcements first. If you haven't checked out daily hammock readings on Facebook or our YouTube, please stop over. It's a great way to start your day with intention, a thoughtful meditation, a prayer from all cultures and ideologies. It's a great way to reset your day. If you want them to subscribe, go to avenuesrecovery.com on the Hammock Readings tab, and we can email them to you every morning. Please share. If you have thoughts or would like to suggest some ideas, do it through Facebook. We are a community, and we're listening. A big shout out to Recovery Mike at Recovery Army on the switch, as always, putting this together. We had a hairy start, and I apologize for being late. Babysitter. I could blame a babysitter, and I'll be writing this resentment down. So let's do a quick recap. As always, it's hard to salad bar the steps without giving them some context. How did we get to 10 and 11, which our guest will be speaking about tonight? So steps 1 and 12-step life, we're making an admittance, so that we're already involving someone else in our recovery because we can't do it alone. This is the position of substance use disorder. It's a disorder you can't recover from by yourself. If I could, I would have done it on my couch. Netflix would have helped. So we're admitting that, and we're now going right into step 2, this idea, how much help do I need? And where's the help needed? And we're coming to find out it's in the sober mind. So drugs and alcohol are just the symptom of a prior condition. And this is why I can't get rid of them just by willpower alone. So I'm questioning the idea, am I insane if I'm going to be restored to sanity? And this gives us this commitment. Do I have to go further? Is the problem cognitive? Is it existential? We knew it was physical, but detox wouldn't be enough for true addiction. Step 3 is now we're going to challenge this idea of addiction in the sober mind. And we're going to re-describe it. And we're going to start with the idea of character defects, the first being selfishness. Step 3 allows me to confront this idea. Where does the self begin and end? And how do I turn this idea, this self that I'm used to is my ego, this false sense of self, it's killing me. It's not protecting me anymore. It used to be a safe place to retreat to. It's betrayed me now. And now that I don't have my drug of choice or the comfort and soothing of whatever high I enjoyed, I need to confront this. So step 3 allows me to make a commitment in the form of a prayer or an oath to a sponsor, a friend, a clinician, that I'm going to do the rest of the steps. If I'm going to make a judgment on AA or Narcotics Anonymous, I'm going to wait till step 12. I'm going all the way. And you finish step 3 when you start writing your 4th step. We saw variations of how to write that. Broad ones, small ones. It doesn't matter. Trust your sponsor, your guide, and take the chance to write it that way. We talked about the historical way with AA. Once this script is kind of completed, if you did all of it or one at a time, you're meeting once a week, you're going to have a discussion. It's going to be unlike the ones you're used to. You're going to go past the column of cause. Anyone would listen to cause. I could do that at the bar. Now I have to see, where am I to blame? how can I look at this a different angle? It's also a good time to maybe befriend it, therapy or a clinician, especially if you have trauma or violence in your story, which our guest knows well, and how to deal with that. This is a great time in the steps to accompany maybe your sponsor with a therapist or a licensed professional to help you through some of these more complex things. Step 6 introduces us to meditation. We get an hour to reflect on the first 5 steps that we took and consider now something that hasn't been awake in a while, a true imagination that can open an ambition that's not small, not selfish. I have a second chance at life. What are my ideals moving forward? And I don't have to lie about my past anymore, even if it's embarrassing, painful. It's what happened. It's not what I am. Now I can move forward. My past doesn't tell me who I have to be. I can make an ideal that's new. 8 and 9 are the confirmation that I could become someone new when I have the guts, the support from the recovery community to start making amends. You can feel peace, it says, less anxiety, relief from depression before your debts are paid and all these amends are made. They're saying once you start, the courage will show up, and don't do it alone. Now we're at step 10, and it's kind of this consolidation of all the steps. How do we continue this practice? Step 11, how do we grow spiritually if we have a faith? If you're secular like me, how was I going to have a practice that can make me present to an intention that, yeah, I have substance use disorder. It's not over now. There's this weird dichotomy that's about to start. I can't keep what was given to me by 12 steps if I'm not prepared to give it away. 10 and 11, keep that house clean to do it. Tonight's guest, all the way from Philadelphia, is going to tell us a little bit about who she is, the work she does, and how she practices 10 and 11. Let's see an emoji round of applause for Christina.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Quick rundown. I am 5.5 years in recovery. I was lucky enough to get it on my first try. I went into rehab. I was a sponge. I listened. I learned. I took everything in, and I never, ever, 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 ever wanted to do detox ever again. So it was a pretty rough one. So I was pretty hell-bent on staying sober, I am a huge women's advocate for domestic violence, for mental health, for sexual trauma, any kind of trauma that you can possibly think of. That's where my wheelhouse is, so to speak. I'm a champion for, I'm not leaving out the men, but I'm a champion for women in recovery, because a lot of times it's harder for us as single moms and as, things like that. So it's hard. Sometimes it's hard being by yourself and being your only support system and things like that. So I want to encourage other women, especially women in my situation who are raising kids by themselves and stuff, that it's possible. It's possible to make meetings and to figure things out around your schedule and work a program and have a sponsor, but still live a life and have your kids and put your kids first. And it's very, very important to me. And it's all about balance, which takes practice, but I think I got it down pat by now. So we'll see. I'm not really sure, but yeah, that's my rundown. So step 10 for me, if I'm being brutally honest, is the hardest that I struggled with. And for lack of a better term, it was just me getting over my character defects. It was me continually working hard on myself to say, I need to be accountable. Nope, you are wrong. Right your wrongs. Nope, you did this. You have to apologize. You have to look at yourself every day in the mirror and every night in the mirror and say, you messed up. And you have to, and even if that's within myself, and I say a prayer and I put it up to God, like, I'm going to do better tomorrow. That's what step 10, quote unquote, means to me. I take my personal inventory every day. I watch everything I say and do. Not always right, not always perfect, not always anywhere near perfect, especially when it comes to my teenagers. But, you learn to just, it becomes a way of life. Like in the beginning, after I went through the steps the first time, I was the I'm sorry girl. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And then I was like, oh, I don't need to tell everybody I'm sorry. I need to tell me that I'm sorry. I didn't hurt that person. I thought I did, but I didn't. So it was a tricky balance for me to figure out my own personal inventory and everybody else's inventory. So I worked really, really hard on that. And that was a huge character defect for me, was figuring out where to place my own inventory, so to speak. So that was incredibly, incredibly hard for me. I'm going to be honest. It was, everybody's like, the mystical fourth step, so scary. No, it's not. It's the most freeing, most beautiful thing in the world. For me, step 10 was the hardest, which a lot of people are like, really? And I'm like, yeah, it's just, I was one way for 35 years. You know what I mean? Like, and then it's like, you have to conform and learn and listen and continue to, take your own inventory, which sometimes isn't fun and it's really not pretty and it gets really dark, but it keeps me accountable and it keeps me level and it keeps me exactly where I need to be in my recovery today. So I work very, very hard, and 10's always on my forefront, which I love. Because I need to be held accountable by my own actions for myself, if that makes any sense. So do you want me to jump into 11 or do you want me to keep talking about 10? Can you hear me? Did we freeze? I don't. Okay. I'm just going to sip my Red Bull. Okay, I will absolutely continue. So, for me, preparing for step 10 was hard. I'm not going to sit here and lie. The 10th step prayer I absolutely love. It's just something that I live by. It's something that it's a personal daily reflection on yourself. And it is something that you have to fully believe in yourself with. Like, in order to say I'm sorry for hurting somebody, or to recognize that you hurt somebody's feelings when you were one way for so long, is huge. And for me, there's no greater gift that I can give others, family, friends, whoever, than being my true authentic self and acknowledging my wrongs and righting my wrongs and doing so as quick as possible, because I don't ever want to hurt anybody, especially if it's a character defect of mine. So I continue to do that. I think I'm just going to jump over to 11. I'm not really sure, since I'm kind of solo dolo on this. So bear with me. I didn't really have a huge problem with step 11. I went into the program with a higher power. I went into the program already believing in God. I lost faith, but I believed in God. And the secular building was what I had a problem with, which doesn't make any sense, but I lost my husband due to fentanyl overdose. So for me and God didn't see eye to eye for a little bit, but I found my way back, and that's all that matters. So it's just an open, healthy dialogue and communication of your higher power. And for me, that's the most important thing, that I have somebody on my side that is beyond greater than me. That, no, I don't hit my knees every morning and pray to hit the lottery. I hit my knees every morning and pray for my next 24. I pray for my children's health. I pray for, just the simple things in life, but it's complete acceptance. It's complete acceptance that I have fully succumbed to the fact that I've given over my will, and I have allowed him to steer me in the direction that I need to be steered in. And that is my purpose. I have turned my pain throughout my recovery journey, which was losing my husband, which was traumatic things like, fentanyl overdose and everything. And I turned it into my purpose. And I, on the front lines in Kensington, I run 2 women's meetings a week. I am diligent in my community. I help the newcomers. And this isn't stuff to like brag, but this is stuff that fills my love tank. This fills my soul and my purpose. This is what I was put on this earth to do. It's to help our brothers and sisters that are still sick and suffering, and to help those that are in recovery that just need a hand and just need some love and just need some TLC or, just some encouraging words. And that's what I'm here to do. And I know that that's what I was meant to do, which is pretty cool.
So you commit to a lot of service. Sorry, I popped off there I'm getting some technical reading there.
That's okay.
You were finishing up step 10, and I think transitioned into 11 when I fell off.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple of questions I wanted to kind of explore out of curiosity to people.
Sure.
You're sober 5 years. You know how to work the steps, but you're also in a demanding service. It could be draining at times, like
it's very draining.
Service in the 12 steps, and then
Mm-hmm.
you could be around a lot of sick people that could behave poorly.
Yes.
You find step 10 keeps you just aware of that. Is it a tool to maintain service? How would you describe that?
For me, it has to be a tool, and it has to be one that's on the top of my toolbox.
Yeah.
Like it has to be, because the work that like Mike does and Jen does and what I do, and we go back to hell to bring a little bit of heaven. You have to you have to have that. You have to have that understanding of the,
Compassion, sympathy.
yeah, like I'm trying not to get emotional, but it's like there are brothers and sisters and they suffer from exactly what we suffer from. They just can't get it. So if I could bring 30 minutes of love and compassion and humanity and just a little bit of spark of joy to their life by giving them a hug or anything, that is what I'm here to do. Yeah. That is my soul's purpose. And that's what I'm committed to do forever.
Yeah. In practicing that, do you find sometimes you even have to go back? Like if a resentment is like something stuck in your craw, and
100%.
You have to write it.
I write it down. I journal every day. I've done the steps, I will tell you, 3 times. I recently redid them on my 5-year anniversary with my sponsor. I thought it was fitting, happy anniversary. Here's some more step. I'm like, darn it. I thought I got away with that. She's like, oh my God, 5 years. We're doing the steps again. I'm like, I knew it was coming. That's fine. But I'm a different person.
Yeah.
So it was beautiful to have everything about me and not the resentments that I used to hold. And I still have everything from when I started. And I look back and I'm like, it's just mind blowing, just the growth and just the mental aspect of how I grasp and put everything now into my life and what's a priority and what's not. Like, I don't sweat the small shit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't sweat like things that are catastrophic to people. Like, oh, a bill's late. I'm blessed. I could be in Kensington. My husband died in Kensington. I have a roof over my head. My children are beyond well taken care of. Bills are late, whatever. The house is a mess. I'll get to it. Like things like that are what's important to me. Like that's.
You have a flow. Like the steps give you a flow to see what's real. You're living in the 4th dimension. Helping other people. Then we'll work backwards from that. The rest is gravy. That sounds like a spiritual path.
It is.
Yeah.
It really, it sounds bizarre. And I had my spiritual awakening, long story short, the night that my husband died. I never had a spiritual awakening before. I was sober for a year and a half, and my mom, very long story short, planned a surprise party for me. And it was my birthday, like right around my birthday. And every single woman that was important in my life, like every female, like aunts, grandmother, best friends, sisters, everybody was there, coworkers, like you name it. And I got the phone call from my brother-in-law, and I was surrounded by nothing but huge feminine, like power, like what I needed. And that was my spiritual awakening, that like I was obviously heartbroken and devastated. And then a couple days later, it wasn't anger. It was like this wave that came over me, like, that's it. I'm hitting the front lines. That's it. This is what I'm doing. That's it. This is my life's purpose. And I was waiting for that purpose, but I just didn't know how to do it. And by him passing away, it's like he passed the torch, if that makes any sense. So
It does. Yeah, it's makes clear
'cause he-
sense.
yeah, he battled for a long time. So he passed the torch to me, and I'll keep going.
Well, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
You may have spoken to this. I got popped off. I keep
That's
getting
okay.
off, but step 11 is a interesting step because there's multiple ways to practice it for all kinds of ways. But A just does this masterful job giving guidelines of like, well, here's a start. Here's how you can start your morning.
Right.
Here's how you can end your night. Have you grown into your own personal practices or spirituality?
Absolutely. I mean, God is my first and foremost, and I pray to him. He's probably sick of me. I pray more than, whatever, but I'm also very, very spiritual. I believe in the holistic world. I believe in crystals. I have that whole thing going. I believe in the natural side of things. I believe in, that there's a big giant universe out there, right? And we're all specks, and we're all here for a reason. And it's really, really cool to just explore different options and just explore different beautiful things that this world has to offer. But he's my first and foremost, and will always be my first and foremost. It's just me expanding my horizons, because as the years go on, I grow.
Yeah.
And I learn, and I see things that I'm like, well, I want to not challenge that, but I want to explore that, and I want to explore my horizons. And I don't ever want to be complacent. I don't ever want to be stuck in the same spot. I'm never done learning, ever, 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 ever. And I always want to remain teachable forever.
That's it seems to be a side effect of a spiritual awakening, that a person's curiosity doesn't die. And it increases and arrogance decreases, because it allows things to never be if you have the answers to everything, how could you be curious?
Exactly.
What could you learn? And I see that as a side effect from you speaking, and anyone that gets to step 10 and 11 and starts to feel this expansion of life is far more interesting of where I was trapped in my pain. That's the common denominator of once you're like practicing 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah.
Did you tied into this purpose, this feeling, this cause, a meaning in life that's not cheap or trivial, looking for happiness, some kind of security of happiness. You tied into a vocation.
Yeah.
Was it the first time you felt overwhelmed like that in your life after?
Yeah. I have to be brutally honest, and I know that they're watching and they're my chosen family, but when I met Mike and Jen, Recovery Mike and Jen, it made sense.
Yeah.
And it sounds bizarre, but everything clicked, because they were exactly like-minded like I was. And they wanted, as Mike, like in his backstory, put your pain into your purpose. And it's it truly is my calling. Like, it really honestly is my calling. And I am blessed that I'm, no, I'm not going to be a millionaire. Nobody cares. Materialistic things come and go. Like I said, I'm blessed that I have a roof over my head and food on the table and my kids are healthy, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the best I can by myself. But my being on this earth is to help our brothers and sisters that are still stuck in hell, and just spread the message of experience and strength and hope, and that you can too be free.
Yeah.
You can be free, and you can learn to be you again. And it takes time. I'm not saying, it takes a long time. And if you read your literature and you know what you're talking about and you pay attention and my favorite saying is take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth. Like, if you just listen and you're willing to be open and listen to others that have come before you and really truly soak in their experiences, like, they know what they're doing. Not everybody. I'm not saying everybody with time, because, there's some that just have time, but that's it. You know what I mean?
Some make the meetings very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to try to take some questions. And as they come in, I still want to wrap because I'm just so interested. Kensington's on fire. And they're people's, it's family, it's loved ones.
I have to be very honest with you. And I know it's a live broadcast, but I'm a very honest, open, blunt person. My sister's been down there for a year and a half. And it's very hard for my family. I kind of I'm on the outs on that one, because I know she's there. She's not ready. She's got severe mental health issues. As we all have mental health issues, let's just be honest, in recovery in one way, shape, or form, whether that's anxiety or depression or, whatever. We all suffer from something, trauma, PTSD, you name it. But it's very, very difficult knowing that you have all the knowledge that you have, and the resources and the tools and the people and the connections and the know-how and you can't save her. And it's a very helpless feeling, but I go to bed literally every night praying for her. And then I know that it's in God's hands. That's it. There's nothing else that we can do. We've, but that's the nature of our disease.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's strange. It's a strange idea. What we titled tonight is Staying Awake. But what initiates an awakening? There's, some drunks of early AA call it a moment of clarity, or a voice. I always hear this common denominator of people saying a voice woke up in their head, audible or just their head, to stop.
Yeah.
And from that moment, there was a break in the armor of ego, and the really painful reality that I didn't want to see, of how much help I really needed, or you needed. You get a glimpse of it to say, oh my God, this is what's happening. Like, I got this sick.
I'm this person. Right.
It feels like you're waking up.
And
it's the beginning of waking up. Like, I'm not sharing the same paradigm and reality as everyone. I can't do that, to use cocaine or drink or not have all these problems. I'm not telling anyone. I can't be part of reality. It's paralyzing. So to stay awake, we've heard you practice step 10, 11, and we have to add 12 in there, because it's hard to parse that with who we are and what some of us need to do. We can't keep, I can't keep what was given to me if I'm not giving it away. There's no free lunch in this spiritual school here.
None.
And we could see that. So those tools are needed for us to be of service. And that's what you're using them for. And I find it beautiful and inspiring, because that's the essence. That's the essence of the 12 steps. You're keeping that spiritual, the pipes clean. So you're an instrument to other people. We got something from Keba Wilson. Let me read this to you, Christine. This last stint of drinking really woke me up because I was having real blackouts and was on the verge of losing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you very much for sharing that. That's brave. So,
what was your moment that you felt you were getting tugged? Like, we all have multiples, but what was well, if you had to pick one that was defining, that brought you to where you're on a live stream tonight talking to a nut from Scranton?
My, like, like, I knew,
Yeah,
but I was like, no, you know what I mean? Like, I knew, when you drink as much as I was drinking and using as much as I was using and doing everything that I was doing, I thought nobody knew, which was hilarious, like, hilarious. And I was on a 3-day bender, and my mom and her husband had to stay with me because my husband was a heroin addict and he was abusive, and I couldn't stay there anymore. And very long story short, I was up for 3 days, so I would make sure that I would shower at 5 a.m. to, just wake up, oh, good morning, you know what I mean? But I haven't slept for 3 days. And my son said to me, "Mom, you look sick." And I said, "Do I?" And he said, "You just don't look well." I was in rehab at 7:30 that night.
Really? Wow.
And I didn't get sober for my kids, and I'm not in recovery for my children. They just reap the benefits of that. But it was everybody else around me and the lifestyle that I was living. Of course, I was being encouraged. Of course, nobody saw a problem with it. Of course, nobody was going to call me out because I was with like-minded people. I was with addicts.
Yeah.
So why would they say, "Oh God, Christina, you're drinking too much"? We all were. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? It's a joke. And family started stepping in because of my mental health. I could not get off the couch during the day because I was so I was so hungover. But I also had a little trick because I was prescribed benzos, so that helped with the withdrawal in the morning. And then I would start nipping around too, and you know what I mean? Like, it was just so effing out of control that I never, like, I was divorcing my husband because he was an addict. And only because of the abusive part. I stuck by him through 13 stints of rehab, like the whole 9 yards. But he became in a long story short, it was a very psychosis matter situation. So I had no choice. I had to leave. And then my children were very, very small. I had to go. But in return, the guilt of leaving, because his addiction got so much worse. And that's not my fault. Now I know that. Yeah. Then I didn't. Then I blamed myself when I was in active addiction because he flowered, which sounds bizarre, but he flowered my addiction garden. Yeah. My dad's an addict in recovery. My sister's in active addiction. My brother's in recovery. Like, when they say it's a family disease, it's a family disease. So we're no stranger to it. So for me, I was like, what? I was a stay-at-home mom. I had 2 babies. Like, what do you mean I'm an alcoholic? No, I'm not. It's summertime. We're having a great time. Like, you know what I mean? It was deny until it just right in my face.
We got a question that I think would be a good transition of describing that, at the end of that your experience, what we're waking up from. Kevin Wilson, Christina, I love, and was wondering if you've forgiven yourself, and at what point did you decide to give it up all to your higher power?
It took a while for me to give it up, everything to my higher power. It took me going through the steps to do that. As far as forgiving myself, it depends on what area. I forgave myself personally because I knew I was sick. Once I got to rehab and I was with everybody else that was like-minded, I knew I had a disease and I knew I was sick, and there was no more denying it. As far as the guilt goes with your children, different ballgame. There's still a piece of me that has guilt. and has guilt that their dad died and misses it's not my fault, but we were married. And I mean, my son, my daughter's not going to be able to walk down the aisle with her father, and my son's not going to be able to, I had to teach him how to shave, and I had to teach him how to, it's hard. So, that's my motivation. That's my motivation to be, kids will not keep you sober. Trust and believe me, they will not keep you sober. They do nothing but add stress to your plate, but it's like, they're my why, but they're not my calling, if that makes sense.
I feel I'm unpacking that.
Yeah.
I'm in the fan and the circle of single moms. I was raised by a single mom. She was tired, and I was the last one out of 4. So kudos. Yes, it is. It's a battle to stay out of a psych unit with 4 kids.
Yeah, I mean, I have a 14-year-old turning, my son's 14 going on like 20. My daughter's 11 going on 16, and the back talking and the slamming of the doors. And I'm like, I'm running away from home.
Do they understand the idea of recovery in your life?
Oh, absolutely. My daughter actually, I taped it. She spoke in my women's meeting.
Yeah.
They're very, very, very self-aware of addiction and how to get help and how to ask for help and what it does, what their dad died from. I had to be honest. I couldn't be on the hamster wheel anymore. And they knew.
Yeah.
They were like, they knew, but I just didn't want to say like car fentanyl overdose. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't, like, I'm not going to be like, oh, by the way, your dad's heart exploded. No, like I leveled it down to their age level, but it was the hardest day of my life, and I was sober.
Describe the support you had from your meetings and your sponsor. How did that relationship start? From what you described happened and some understanding began to peek through in treatment. How did that from treatment translate into a meaningful relationship with a sponsor?
Well, it took me 3.5 months to find a sponsor. I would go to meetings. I was like sitting in the back. I was like, I don't know. Like, I think everybody has that. I think everybody feels that way. Like, you're the new kid in school, and like, you're like sitting there and you're like, I don't know. I kind of like really like, so I'm a toughie. Like, Mike calls me a pit bull. So I needed a toughie. So I found the biggest, baddest woman in the room, tatted up everywhere, didn't take any shit. And I was like, she's mine. Yeah. So she's been with me for 5.5 years, and she's amazing. And she doesn't take my crap, which is even better.
What's your advice for newcomers or people that have experienced trauma and how to proceed with that?
Trauma's huge. Trauma will take you out, whether you're in recovery or not, if you're not working on it. Yeah. If you're not seeing a therapist, if you're not seeing a trauma therapist, people don't realize that subconsciously we have physical traits that come out that you don't even realize, that associate themselves with PTSD, that you don't even know. You have no clue that, like, I wonder why I'm like sleeping later, or I'm going to bed later, or I wonder why I haven't eaten today. Well, our mind, as we know, absolutely loves playing tricks on us, and it comes out in the worst. I actually wrote it down. Some of like the most prominent for physical is freezing up. We all know fight or flight. Mm-hmm. Out of nowhere being nauseous, which is completely normal. Little less pretty, diarrhea, but it's a physical thing that people don't understand. Loss of appetite. You can't fully concentrate. You can't sleep. You have nightmares, like PTSD nightmares. You don't feel safe, even in your own home, even in your own room. Like, you're easily scared, like you're on high alert, like, oh, what was that car noise? Like, what was that car door? Like stuff like that. And it doesn't even have to be from physical trauma. It could just be from mental or emotional or anything. And people don't realize the role that that plays and how heavy it is on our bodies and our minds and our souls. Like, you have to free yourself from that. You have to.
In your work, and Kensington is just daily trauma for anyone who's been living through an. Do you help connect people with services so they can find licensed therapy and clinicians, even from the 12-step community, to unpack and get the help needed to resolve some of the serious trauma?
I do more of that through my meetings, through networking. Like when we go down to Kensington, it's pretty much here is
Services
wardrobes for everybody. Everybody gets a hot meal. Everybody gets food and not utilities, things that they need, deodorant, like care packages, things like that. We sit, if we have to Narcan, we Narcan. If we have to check to make sure they need to be narked, we do that. We wound check. We make sure everybody's okay. You know, I always get in trouble with Mike, and he'll tell you on the side, I go rogue.
Rogue one.
I go rogue. Like, I'll like wander, and he'll be like, Christina, because I'm like, no, that lady on the hill needs help. And like, it's not safe for me to do that, but I can't help myself because I'm like, she needs help. And I run like an idiot because it's dangerous down there, but
it is, but you're doing real work. It's a war zone, and you're like the Red Cross of dignity for people who have been abandoned, you know, culturally, socially, and it's complex. It's very complex.
It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking and devastating to say. It's a 3 to 4 block radius. And that's what people don't understand. 3 or 4 city blocks of nothing but hell. Yeah. It's hell.
Well, it's the charge of people like you and Mike, the recovery community. And, you know, there's all different forms of help, from harm reduction, but it's good to know there's a 12-step presence of always giving. I believe in all means of dignity, but the 12-step presence of you could go all the way. You could be awake. We could help you, you know, get here. And any way you can get here, we'll be here waiting.
Absolutely. With open arms and open hearts and open minds. And it doesn't matter, you know, it makes me emotional because they're human beings.
Yes,
they're our brothers and sisters who have the same thing as you and I. So why are they still in hell? Why can't we pull them out of hell? I know that they don't want to at the time, but it doesn't mean that we can't try. It doesn't mean that we can't go back and show them that they are human beings, that they are somebody that is valuable and loved. And I don't even know your name, but I'm going to give you a hug and say, God bless you. I love you. Please stay strong and stay safe. And I do it to everybody. Like, it's just, and then I go rogue and get yelled at.
Well, he's the general. You got to listen to your field agent. So to summarize, let's, if there's any other questions, guys, send them in. If there's questions you maybe didn't feel comfortable asking, you could always reach out to us and we'll get a hold of Christina. Reach out to your alumni coordinators, or you could email me. I get back to you within the week. Any questions or support material I could give you on the steps from AA, NA, Refuge, Dharma, anything you'd be looking for, I'll get back to you within a week. So let's get a last round of the questions. If guys, you'd like to, you're getting a lot of shout outs and support. I don't know if you're seeing these quotes. Beautiful things. Prayers for you, your family, sisters, and how noble your work is. You'll have to check them out after.
It's appreciated. I just have one itty bitty teeny tiny favor. I have a poem that's like my mantra, and I named my women's meeting after it. And it's not long, but like before we wrap, can I read it?
I would. Yeah, I would love to hear it. I started reading poetry again the last 2 years. I don't know. I've never could have had the mind for it. And after my anxiety got reduced, I started reading it and I'm like, I think I like poetry.
I think I like poetry. Well, this is actually like my mantra. This is what I live by. This is what my women's meeting's named after. It's named after our dash. So I don't know if you've heard it before, but it's my absolute favorite. So I'll read it fast, but it's
read it slow.
Okay, I'll read it slow, but it's how I live my life. And I think how everybody should live their life, recovery or not.
Okay.
This is just humanity, like in my opinion. It's called The Dash by Linda Ellis. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on her tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came her date of her birth and spoke the following dates with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that she spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved her know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that the special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash?
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I live by, my dash.
Thank you. Thank you for reading that.
Mhm.
Guys, work the steps and you'll enlarge this dash. It'll be far more interesting. The dash is unknown in recovery. In addiction, we know where that dash is ended. We don't know what the day is, but it's not going to be well. It's not going to look well. Take the risk. Reach out to someone tonight if you need help. If it's an emergency, always, like I said, call 911. But if we can help you, please reach out to any one of us or alumni coordinators. I'd like to thank Recovery Mike and our guest and friend, Christina. Another round of applause for sharing who you are with us, how you
Thank
practice
you.
10 and 11, and what a vocation you dedicated yourself to your community and your friends. Anything we could always do to support. That's it. The community's much larger than just this, which you're coming to find out.
And we need to stick together. And we need to stick together.
Yeah.
Because it's power in numbers, and we need to end this stigma and do some changes.
Thank you, Christina. Guys, if you need anything, reach out to us directly. And check out Hammock Readings on YouTube and Facebook. And if you're, oh, there's the other one. And that's it. I'm running out of announcements. Next week, we're doing step 12. We have a very special guest. We're bouncing city from city. We got Philly in there, so thank God. Fort Wayne, Indiana, we had New Orleans community up in New Hampshire. It's been really interesting finding new friends. We're going beyond the Avenues family to our friends, partners, and the communities we want to support. Guys, have a great night. If anyone wants to reach out to Christina or Avenues, drop us a line. I'll see
Absolutely.
you.
I'm almost here.
See you next week.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.